Alrighty, good morning everybody. It's Thursday, September 26th, 2024. Let's go ahead and jump back to yesterday and take a look at what happened here. Might have to actually resize this real quickly. And we'll go ahead and jump back. Yesterday was actually a pretty sweet day. I hope you guys had some success out there because there was a lot of good opportunities. If we scroll back, I also want to welcome in Mustafa. This is your first day in, so thanks for coming to check us out. We're going to go ahead and see here what happened. So on the pullback, beautiful opportunity right off the VWAP there, right? So there were two tests with almost zero risk, again, nearly zero ticks on the S&P futures market to try and see if we were going to go ahead and continue to break out, because what happened was we opened out of the open there and then got up through the high of the day before. So there was a good opportunity to try that long. And if you did, you got yourself a good 10-point trade to the upside. Let me just make sure. Yeah, a good 10-point trade to the upside with almost no risk. And then the whole bottom started to drop out, right? So this was starting to look like a typical peak above and fail. We were coming up through the high of the day before, but only taking a quick peek, and then the bottom started to drop out. And this is where we had a lot of beautiful short opportunities for the rest of the day. So as the market began to get back through the VWAP here, as you can see, it started to step down. We held the back end of the close of the day before for, again, very limited risk if you tried fading the back end of that. And if you did fade the back end of the close of the day before, you got this whole sell-off, right? So you got yourself easily 20 points to the downside, if not more. And then if you missed out on the test of the close as it was starting to sell off, you did get the tag of the back end of the 200 right here, the tag of the back end of the VWAP. And then if you missed out on all that, if you were a little bit iffy as to what was going on here, and you didn't have confidence to go ahead and fade the market, well, at this point, it should have been clear as it continued to sell off. And then there you go. There's your opportunity to get off the back end of the 200 once, twice, and I believe there was a third time, I guess just shy of it there. So there were a lot of good low-risk opportunities to try a short. There were even perfect long opportunities off of our roadmap level. So if you tried a long right off of 57.82, should have been able to get a little scalp right up to the 200. Remember, I tell you guys, if we're coming into the 200, you probably should take profit there because of scenarios like this, right? So you got yourself, if you took it right to the 200, just about a 5-point scalp. And then that second test, you then got, or I'm sorry, and then the second long off of there came up just shy of the 200. So there were long opportunities off the roadmap level, and then another long opportunity right off the holy orange power level for, again, we're talking 2 or 3 ticks of risk, and you could have taken a nice scalp right up to the back end of the 200 there for a nice 5-point trade. But obviously the direction was to be short, and again, short off the close, short off the VWAP, short off the 200. You would have gotten very limited risk trades, and you could have rode this whole thing down all the way to, what do you know, the low of the day was our next roadmap level. It missed it by 1 tick. Okay, our roadmap level was at 67.75. It bounced at 68, and that was the low of the day for the next pop. So like I said, there were some really good opportunities, and there were even good opportunities to counter trend it and go long and catch a little bit of that bounce. And then finally there was that last tag right there off the 200 to capture the last, let's just say the last 15 points down to the next roadmap level, right? So good opportunity to then buy. Of course, it did not come right into the level. It held it there 1 tick in front, and then it began to try and push higher. Excuse me. However, notice what happened here. When the market got below the roadmap level that it found support at, when it got below, it held below it again, nearly less than a point away, 2 ticks away from it here, came down, found the next roadmap level, and then had trouble at that very discrete area in the chart, right? This whole pocket here, there's a reason that is one of our major roadmap levels. It is expected to be support, but if it's a heavy market, it then is expected to be a resistance when the bulls try to get through. So for that whole afternoon, you could have tried fading the back end of that roadmap level and made some pretty decent trades to the downside. On the flip side of that, one key thing to note here in general is that the bears could not hold price below 50% of the day before. And Mustafa, you're new, so you're not too familiar with how to trade this stuff, but understanding that the 50% of the day before is a very critical spot in the chart, and when we see the bulls defend that area, it's usually a clue for higher, and we did get it in this instance. And if they can't hold above it and price holds below that area, now we're cluing in for potential for much deeper pullback or expecting lower prices, right? Doesn't mean it has to happen when it holds below there, but that's just a general idea that when price can not hold above there, we're expecting a retest of the low the day before, and if they can hold above it, we are expecting there to be a retest of the highs in a very general sense, right? There's no guarantees in trading. These are just some basic ideas on how to orient yourself when you're trading on the market. So bounce back and forth between our roadmap level down here and our roadmap level up here. And then on that pullback, could not go ahead and push much lower than the 50% of the previous day there. I think it broke by maybe 2 points max. And then we got the bounce at the end of the day to push right back up to VWAP. And on the way up there, you could have bought the pullback right to the 200 with no risk there. Pull back to the 200 moving average or our fast moving average. And then here you can see back to the fast moving average or the holy orange power level. And if you would have bought each of these roadmap levels on the way up, you would have captured that push back up to VWAP to the tick. So like I said, if you look overall at yesterday, some really clean opportunities with very limited risk to play things to the upside and play things to the downside. Again, I didn't even mention that if you faded the back end of this level multiple times, you captured nice, 5 to 10 point pullbacks. That brings us here into the overnight session where we're finally getting our breakout through the old all-time high, which was right around, I guess, 57.97.5, if I remember. And they actually came just in front of it, pulled back, and then we got the breakout. So we're now pushing to new all-time highs on the S&P futures market. And as you can see on the way up, it was such an aggressive rush to the upside that on the pullbacks, they couldn't even get to the fast-moving average, which is typically your best friend in a strong impulsive move out of a previous chop zone, right? So there were some really good opportunities, but in the pullbacks, they couldn't even get to the FMA. When they finally did, the move was basically over. So if you did try this in the middle of the night last night, or I know some of you were across the ocean, in different countries of the world, might have been your morning. If you try to pull back to the fast moving average, you did capture a nice little 5 point scalp, right? But it did kind of peter out there at some point, and then we had the Hopal print, and if you bought the Hopal on the pullback, you also got yourself a nice 5 to 10 point scalp right up to our expected resistance for this morning, right? So if we zoom out and look at the higher time frames here, before we broke out, this was our target to the upside, 58.30. And now, if you look, the market finally broke out after this 3, 4, 5 days of chop and came right to that 58.30. And that's where we got that pullback here in the overnight session. And now, as you can see, they're trying to bounce right off the Hopal to come back up right now, right? So there was a good opportunity to go ahead and try a buy off Hopal, HOPL, holy orange power level. And if you did, you took on maybe 2 points of risk. And now you're up almost 8, 9, 10 points. So that's the review here for the previous day. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see what they're saying for this morning.